Fortunately, I was not present at home when the police attempted to contact me, and my phone, set to block private numbers, automatically rejected their calls. This lack of communication led the police to take drastic measures, resulting in the forced entry into my residence. My landlord is now holding me financially responsible for the costs of repairing or replacing my damaged door. I'm left wondering if such a course of action is legally justified. Edit. It is worth noting that the specifics of the laws regarding police entry and liability may vary depending on your location. It would be beneficial to consult with a local attorney to understand the relevant laws and regulations. Update. The laws and regulations regarding police entry and liability can be complex and nuanced. A better understanding of these laws can help individuals navigate such situations in the future. TLDR. Reddit reported a user's suicidal nudes shared with employer today. I have a meeting with my store management to discuss nudes that were shared with them by an ex that I had an ongoing year-long consensual relationship with. This ex is also an employee in a different location. We do not work together directly. Employment dispute over private images. I am scheduled to meet with my store's management to address a sensitive issue. During an ongoing consensual year-long relationship with an ex-partner, who is also employed by the company but in a different location, they shared intimate images of me with higher management and human resources. This occurred after the relationship ended. The ex-partner distributed an extensive collection of my private photos, and I was informed that they were shared with and described in detail by management. This has put my job at risk, and I am seeking guidance on potential legal remedies available to me under Maryland law. I am looking for any possible avenues of redress for the unauthorized sharing of my private images. I'm not sure how long I'll keep this post public, but today I reported my mother. In 2017 she tried to kill me. It's been too hard to speak of. I went NC around a month ago. I just wanted time share my minor achievement with someone. Edit. Just woke up. Thanks so much. I'm not sure how long this post will remain public. Today, I finally gathered the courage to reach out for help, having reported a traumatic event from my past. It's taken me years to confront this painful memory, but I'm trying to find a way to heal. In 2017, my mother attempted to harm me in a violent way. I've struggled to open up about it, but I'm trying to take control of my life. I've been a silent observer of this community for a long time, and I've often wanted to share my story. Yesterday, I chose to take a break from my life and set boundaries with my mother, deciding to go no contact. I'm still adjusting to this new chapter, but it's a step towards reclaiming my well-being. As I reflect on my decision, I wanted to acknowledge a small victory that I'd like to share. It may seem insignificant to some, but it's a significant milestone for me. I'm grateful for the support of this community, even if it's from afar. Edit. I've just woken up and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for the kindness and understanding I've received. For those who are curious about the details, I'll say only that it involved an attempt. My middle school bully died, and I'm happy woke up yesterday to the news that my middle school bully died, in a way that has people on Reddit tearing him apart, calling him a piece of shit. He killed 2 innocent people. Yesterday I felt a freedom I hadn't felt since he broke me. A sense of liberation washed over me upon learning of my middle school tormentor's demise. A distressing report spread throughout social media platforms, including Reddit, where users passionately condemned his actions, labeling him a reprehensible individual. Details of his crimes, which included the loss of 2 innocent lives, fueled the outrage. As I absorbed the news, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, a feeling I hadn't experienced in nearly a decade. The memories of my middle school years began to resurface, the humiliation, the isolation, and the unrelenting torment at the hands of this individual. The silence and inaction from adults and peers during those trying times only served to exacerbate the pain. I had reached a point where the thought of living felt unbearable, and my self-esteem lay in tatters. In an unexpected display of catharsis, I found myself raising a glass with a friend at a local bar, celebrating the fact that I had persevered through the darkest of times, while my tormentor had not. In a cold, detached tone, I offered my condolences. May you find peace, you despicable person. I really hate how girls act like being a psycho girlfriend is a cute quirk to have. No, it's not cute to threaten your partner with violence or other kinds of abuse when you even suspect they talk to other girls. It's not funny to key their car when they don't do what. The notion that being a dramatic girlfriend is an endearing trait is utterly misguided. It's not charming to make veiled threats or engage in manipulative behavior when your partner interacts with someone of the same sex. Keying their vehicle or engaging in other forms of aggression is never an acceptable response to perceived disloyalty. Threatening harm to oneself or others is a red flag, regardless of the relationship's dynamics. I'm unimpressed by attempts to pass off such behavior as a joke, and the consequences of taking it lightly can be devastating. Abuse, in any form, is not a laughing matter. It's a serious issue that demands our attention and respect. Edit. The original post seems to be addressing a societal issue where some women romanticize or glorify abusive behavior, often in the name of love or passion. This phenomenon can have real-world consequences and is not limited to any particular demographic. Update. The author's message is clear. Abusive behavior is never acceptable and should never be trivialized. It's essential to recognize the harm caused by such actions and to address the issue with the seriousness it deserves. TLDR. Abuse is not a joke, and romanticizing or trivializing it can have serious consequences. If your website says, "Call for price," I'll spend my money at a competitor that is actually willing to be transparent with pricing. I work in sales and find it absolutely ridiculous that so many websites in general say, "Call for price." Why? What is it about your pricing that? I've lost count of how many times I've come across websites that hide behind the excuse, "Call for price." As someone who spends their days in sales, I'm baffled by this practice. It leads me to wonder what exactly is behind this lack of transparency. Is it a fear of being undercut by competitors or an unwillingness to meet their customers halfway? Whatever the reason, I believe it stems from a deeper issue, a concern that their pricing is inferior. In my experience, if you're too afraid to publicly disclose your prices, it's likely a sign that you're not competitive. So, what's the alternative? If you can't be upfront about what you're asking for, then maybe you're not the right choice for me. I'll take my business elsewhere, where the prices are transparent and the sales process is straightforward. TLDR. Transparency in pricing is key to winning customers' trust. Update. No update at this time. Edit. None. Sister upset that I am using ice after surgery. We have a fridge with an ice machine that can make crushed ice. We also have a freezer downstairs with ice. I had surgery 24 hours ago, and my sister, 15, is extremely upset that I am not going up and down the basement stairs too. The sibling in question has taken issue with my post-surgical ice pack replenishment strategy. Our household boasts an ice-making machine within the fridge, producing crushed ice at my convenience, as well as a freezer situated in the basement, which contains ice as well. It has been 24 hours since my surgery, and my 15-year-old sister is visibly distressed that I am not ascending and descending the stairs every 10 minutes to refill my ice pack. Her primary concern is that the crushed ice available in our home is not being utilized for her iced coffee, which she might possibly desire in the future. Alas, my adult status renders me powerless against the exasperation I feel in this situation. Edit. Sorry if the initial post's tone led anyone to believe I was referring to the illicit substance, not the frozen water. Restaurant mistakenly added a $4,600 tip. Went out to eat on Memorial Day. Bill was $38,000. I tipped $10. When the server reran my card to close out for the night, she added a $4,600 tip. She mistakenly keyed in my order number instead of the tip amount. Restaurant has fully add. A misunderstanding at the restaurant on Memorial Day. My family and I decided to dine out, where the total came out to be $38,000. I left a $10 tip for the server, expecting it to be the end of the transaction. However, when the server reran my card to finalize the bill for the evening, she made a critical error. She mistakenly entered my order number instead of the tip amount, adding a massive $4,600 to the bill. After discovering the mistake, the restaurant promptly acknowledged their fault. They claim that resolving the issue now lies with their credit card processor to reverse the incorrect charge. Meanwhile, I have taken the necessary steps by filing a dispute with my bank, which initially rejected my claim. Fortunately, after providing them with a copy of the receipt, they allowed me to reopen the dispute. The bank has informed me that it may take weeks to complete their investigation. Does this situation leave me with any other options? AITA. Newlywed husband, 32M, wanted to wait till marriage for sex and just surprised me, 27F, with micropenis on the honeymoon. So, we only dated for 6 months. We've been engaged for another 6 and just got married on Saturday. I literally just got back from my honeymoon at AITA. Newlywed husband, 32M, kept secret about micropenis until honeymoon, leaving me, 27F, feeling deceived. After just 6 months of dating, my fiancé and I decided to get engaged, and we recently tied the knot. The wedding was a whirlwind experience, but the honeymoon was over even sooner, as I returned just a couple hours ago. My husband isn't deeply rooted in faith but prefers to describe himself as old-fashioned. In the lead up to our wedding night, there were moments when we teetered on the edge of intimacy, but it always seemed to stop just short. Looking back, I'm starting to wonder if I was misled by the way he presented himself. The truth came to light during our honeymoon, and it left me feeling uncertain about our relationship. He has a condition that affects his physical appearance in a way he may have been hesitant to disclose before our marriage. I chose not to bring it up, deciding to focus on enjoying our time together. However, it's difficult for me to shake the feeling that some information was deliberately kept hidden from me, even if he didn't intend to deceive me. Edit. I don't think I'm looking for advice on this, and I'm not trying to AITA for being honest with my nephew about where I was for most of his life. Okay, let me just get right into this. My 27M was kicked out at 16 because my older sister, 37F, outed me to my parents as gay. They completely cut off all contact with me and I didn't see any of my F. Am I the asshole for being truthful with my nephew about my past? Let me dive right into the story. My 27M was expelled from my family at 16 when my older sister, 37F, revealed my sexual orientation to my parents. They severed ties with me entirely and I didn't see my family until last year when my father passed away and my mother decided to rekindle our relationship. My nephew was only 5 years old when I was kicked out, now he's 16. A couple of weeks ago, I attended a family party and spent quality time with my nephew, discussing various topics. He asked me why I hadn't been involved in his life for such a long time and what had led to the estrangement between me and my family. I inquired about what his mother had told him, but he shrugged and claimed she wouldn't discuss it. I suggested that he have this conversation with her, but he continued to press for answers until I finally shared the reason for my departure: that I was cut off due to being gay. My nephew seemed taken aback and asked how my parents discovered my orientation. I explained that it was due to my sister's actions, but also emphasized that it was a long time ago and I AITA for cussing at a lady at the park. I, 14M, recently took my sister, 4F, to a park close to my house. She was pretty excited to go because her dad bought her a bicycle and she wanted to try it out. When we arrived there was a lady with her 2 sons and a daughter. Was I in the wrong for getting angry at a lady at the park? Recently, I took my 4-year-old sister to a park near our house. She was excited because her dad had just bought her a new bicycle and she wanted to test it out. When we arrived at the park, I made eye contact with a woman who was there with her 3 kids. I gave her a friendly smile and wave. After about 15 minutes, my sister decided she was too scared to ride the bicycle and started playing on the swings instead. I took a moment to say hello to my uncle, who was passing by, and then turned my attention back to my sister. However, I saw that the woman's sons were playing with my sister's bicycle, and she was doing nothing to stop them. I politely asked the kids to leave the bike alone, but they ignored me. I then went up to the woman and asked if she could speak to her sons about it. She responded by saying that her kids were just having fun and that my sister's bicycle wasn't being used, so there was no issue. I explained the situation to her, pointing out that her kids had their own bikes, so there was no need for them to be playing with my sister's. TIFU by leaving a suicide note before running outside. Okay, so the obligatory this happened a few months back. A little backstory: I have dealt with severe depression and suicidal thoughts, have a few, obviously, unsuccessful attempts. Good news, I'm better now and I laugh a boo. Mistakes of the past. A cautionary tale of fumbling emotions. It was a few months ago, but the memories still linger. I'd like to provide some context for those who are curious. I've had my fair share of struggles with severe depression and suicidal thoughts, and, yes, I've made a few attempts in the past. Fortunately, I've made significant progress and can now look back on those events with a mix of humor and regret. As an aspiring author, writing short stories and working on a novel has been my passion. It's a therapeutic outlet for me, and I found solace in crafting stories that touch on complex themes like mental health, The fiasco began when I was working on a short story about a 15-year-old girl who stumbles upon a suicide letter penned by herself 10 years into the future. The letter was to be in her handwriting, and I was experimenting with the narrative's tone when my phone rang. My friend was calling, and she wanted to chat, so I hastily excused myself from my mom, who was oblivious to the unfolding drama. In a rush, I stepped outside, leaving my phone behind, not an uncommon occurrence for me, as I often forget to bring it unless a month ago I posted my first post, which is still up on my account. I was terrified and hurt and confused, and the comments really helped me sort through everything going on. A week later, finding strength in vulnerability, a month has passed since I shared my initial post with complete honesty, hoping for support and understanding. The responses I received helped me navigate a very difficult time in my life. My world was turned upside down a week later, when I was unexpectedly rushed into an early delivery of our baby at 35 weeks. This was a tumultuous period, and I'm grateful for the online community's kindness and assistance as I processed my emotions. However, things took a devastating turn when my husband found me researching warning signs of an abusive relationship a week after giving birth. His reaction was violent and left me shaken. In the aftermath of this traumatic event, I found the courage to take control of my life. I've taken a pivotal step and filed for divorce, also securing a protective order to ensure my safety and that of my child. My husband will never again threaten or harm me or my baby. The support I received from my initial post was instrumental in helping me make this decision. I'm grateful for the kindness and empathy of strangers who took the time to offer words of encouragement. Your generosity has given me the strength to stand up for myself and my child. I'm choosing to prioritize our well-being and leave a toxic relationship behind. Thank TIFU because I didn't pee before waiting in line at an amusement park. I drank a lot water today because I walk a lot at work. Me, F21, my boyfriend, and his brother drove up to go to the amusement park after we got off. It was a 50-minute drive and I drank even more water on. TIFU because I lost control of my bladder at an amusement park. My day started with an excessive amount of water intake due to walking extensively at work. After finishing my shift, I, along with my boyfriend and his brother, embarked on a 50-minute drive to an amusement park. During the trip, I consumed more water in an attempt to stay hydrated, and we didn't make any stops to use the bathroom, as we wanted to maximize our ride time. Upon arrival, we joined a lengthy line at the park entrance, only to be delayed by security checks. As I stood in line, I noticed the bathroom nearby, with its sounds of flushing and the eerie feeling of being watched. My boyfriend playfully made water noises, which added to my discomfort, and then disaster struck. I bent down to retrieve my dropped mask, and a steady trickle turned into a catastrophic flood. The situation quickly spiraled out of control, with my body releasing an alarming amount of clear liquid. I frantically thought, this can't be happening, but it was too late, the damage was done. The sheer embarrassment led to uncontrollable tears, and in a desperate attempt to escape the scene, I sprinted away towards the parking lot. My boyfriend rushed to comfort me. AITA for asking my cousin not to bring his autistic son, my nephew, to my home anymore because of a romantic attachment to my wife? I know from the title, it definitely sounds like I would be the asshole, but please hear me out. I have an older cousin whose son, my nephew, is I. The burden of a family bind. I recently made a decision that has left me feeling uncertain about whether I was in the wrong. My wife and I have a close relationship with our second cousin and his family, particularly his son, who is autistic. His son, my nephew, is an adult in his early 20s and still requires guidance due to his developmental delays. Recently, my cousin and his wife considered relocating to our state due to job opportunities. When they visited us, my nephew's behavior became concerning. He exhibited a strong attachment to my wife, often seeking her attention and affection. In the past, we had thought it was cute when he drew a picture of a heart and gave it to her, but now his behavior has become more intense. During their latest visit, my nephew's behavior escalated, and he became possessive of my wife. He insisted she was his girlfriend and became jealous of our newborn son. His parents tried to intervene, but my nephew's meltdown caused a scene, leaving my wife to tend to our son. I stood by to protect them, feeling uneasy about my nephew's behavior. I had to make a difficult decision: ask my cousin and his wife to leave our home. I explained that I couldn't AITA for kicking out my dad and his pregnant wife out of the home I legally own after they sent my depressed sister to live with our aunt. My mother passed away 3 years ago. The family home, where I and my sister grew up, was willed to me. It was her ancestral property, and am I the asshole, AITA, for forcing my father and his pregnant wife out of my family home after discovering they had wrongfully sent my depressed sister to live with our aunt? Following my mother's passing 3 years ago, I inherited our ancestral family home, as per her wishes. It was a gesture of love and respect for her family's legacy. My younger sister, who was just 13 at the time, inherited our vacation home. My father remarried just 6 months after my mother's passing and introduced his new wife to us. My sister has been struggling to cope with her mother's loss, and things took a turn for the worse when my father and his wife announced they were expecting twins. My sister's emotional state began to deteriorate, and her friend's party at our home, which she had organized for her 16th birthday, seemed to be the final straw. Upon my father's wife's return from vacation, she was incensed to find our home in disarray. She launched a verbal attack on my sister, claiming she was a burden on our family and similar to my mother. My sister was then asked to leave, and she was sent to live with our aunt. When I found out about this, I was outraged. I customer at Subway, wants to speak to the manager. I worked at a Subway that didn't have any authority, managers, just a couple minimum wage base level workers. I don't remember what this particular customer was mad about, but she was arguing with me and didn't like the answer. A dissatisfied customer at our Subway store requested to speak to the supervisor. I worked at a Subway where decisions were typically made by the 2 entry-level staff members. I recall a customer becoming agitated with me, disputing the information I provided. When she asked to speak to the manager, I found myself in a predicament since we didn't have any authority figures on site. In a moment of creativity, I decided to take charge and introduce myself as the manager. The customer was not pleased with this development, realizing that the response wouldn't change. She then requested our store's phone number to contact the owner directly. The owner had specifically instructed us not to share his personal contact information with customers, so I provided her with our store's number instead. A cunning smile spread across her face, suggesting she envisioned the trouble she was about to cause. However, fate intervened when the phone behind me began to ring. As I answered it, I couldn't help but notice the customer's stunned expression. I then looked her straight in the eye and asked how I could assist her, mirroring the same greeting she had initially been seeking from the manager. TLDR, customer became agitated at a Subway store and asked to speak to the manager, only to AITA for saying things my wife gives our infant in front of our child's doctor. My wife and I have a 2-month-old daughter. For the past month she's been feeding our baby mashed potatoes, applesauce, sweet tea, assorted fruit juices and other things. The last time we went tea. Am I the asshole for speaking up about my wife's feeding choices in front of our child's doctor? My wife and I have a 2-month-old daughter. In the past month, she's been giving our baby a variety of foods, including mashed potatoes, applesauce, sweet tea, and assorted fruit juices. When we recently visited our pediatrician, we were advised to stick to formula until our child is between 4 to 6 months old. However, my wife feels she knows what's best for our child and thinks the doctor's opinion doesn't matter. Our daughter is often constipated and cries for hours at night, which my wife attributes to colic. I've repeatedly asked her to stop giving our baby table food and go back to formula, but she's only feeding her 1 or 2 bottles while I'm at work. One morning, when I was home, my wife was preparing a meal and wanted to feed our daughter oatmeal before giving her a bottle. I argued with her about it, but I eventually gave in and fed our daughter the bottle. During our child's recent doctor's appointment, my wife spoke about her concerns regarding our daughter's colic and crying fits. When the doctor asked what she was feeding her, my wife AITA for blowing up at my husband for lying to me about my sister and her baby leaving when he actually kicked her out. My sister, 20, got out of a terrible relationship and moved in with me and my husband and brought her 5-month-old son. She's dealing with a handful of issues. Am I the asshole for losing my temper at my husband for deceiving me about my sister and her baby leaving, when it turned out he was the one who actually kicked them out? My sister, who's 20 years old, escaped a bad relationship and moved in with us along with her 5-month-old son. She's dealing with a range of issues including postpartum depression and anxiety. I asked my husband if he was okay with her staying with us, and he said yes. In fact, he was the one who brought her home and claimed to be supportive. For 2 weeks, my sister helped out around the house, but my husband started complaining about the baby's constant crying. As a new mother, it's normal for babies to cry, especially at night. I suggested he use earplugs, but he became dismissive and told me to drop it. When I had to leave town for a friend's funeral, I asked my husband to stay behind and look after my sister. He agreed, claiming he wanted to make sure she was okay. However, when I returned home the next day, my sister and her baby were nowhere to be found. My husband told me she had contacted a friend in another town and decided to move with them, but TIFU by sending my husband to Korea. My husband got invited to be a speaker in a conference, but it'll be in Seoul. He didn't feel like attending since he finds conferences annoying and hates long flights. But I wanted to go to Korea, and with hotel rooms and his flight paw. My inadvertent trip up. My husband had been invited to be a keynote speaker at an international conference in Seoul, but he was less than enthused about attending due to his aversion to conferences and long-haul flights. However, with the prospect of a complimentary hotel stay and flight, the trip would end up being a cost-effective option for me. After persistent coaxing and a few carefully chosen treats, he eventually agreed to participate on the condition that I accompany him to all the events to keep him company. It wasn't long before I discovered that the conference was scheduled for a date that clashed with my visa application timeframe. As an Indonesian citizen, navigating international travel can be notoriously complex, requiring a minimum of a month's lead time to secure the necessary travel documents. As a result, my husband is now en route to Korea, alone and undoubtedly less than thrilled. TLDR. Sent my husband on a trip he didn't want to go on so I could accompany him, but I'm now unable to join him. Update. My husband's reaction when I told him that another Redditor is attending the same conference and offered to spend time with him. AITA for telling my wife her parents are not allowed to ever watch our son again. My wife and I have a 2-year-old son and have been married for 4 years. Our anniversary was a month ago and we found a nice, secluded cabin on Airbnb and rented it out for a long weekend getaway. The unforgivable act. My wife's parents have blurred the line. My wife and I have been married for 4 years, raising our 2-year-old son and navigating life's challenges together. We recently celebrated our anniversary and decided to take a weekend getaway to a secluded cabin. Since we were on the way home from our trip, my wife asked her parents if they would be willing to watch our son for a little while. They agreed, and we dropped him off at their house. Growing up, I was raised Lutheran, while my wife has a Catholic background. However, neither of us practices our faith, and we've chosen not to have our son baptized. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law, Mill, is a devout Catholic who believes that our son's lack of baptism puts him at risk of eternal harm. She's made her disapproval known in the past. When we picked up our son and asked about his weekend, Mill revealed that she had secretly baptized him at her church. Her actions made me livid, but I managed to keep my cool in front of our son. On the car ride home, I expressed my outrage to my wife, stating that this would be the last time her parents would be left alone with our son. She downplayed I keep meeting my birth mom, but she doesn't know it's me. This is a repost. I am not the oop-edit. It seems like a lot of people are finding this post and thinking I am oop. To be clear, this is a repost and the OP is you, no dinner invite. He has been directed to this post thou. The unlikely encounter. I found myself crossing paths with my birth mother on multiple occasions, but what's remarkable is that she has no idea it's me. This is a repost of a previous post, and I'm not the original poster. Origins. I was born to a 14-year-old mother, and given up for adoption. My parents told me about her from an early age, and I still have the letter she wrote to me when I was younger. It was her wish that they give it to me when the time was right. The letter is heartbreaking and poignant, as she expresses her regret for not being able to be my mother, but hopes I'm happy and doing well. She was open to having contact, but after we moved when I was 11, it seemed impossible to reconnect. However, fate intervened, and I stumbled upon her again. She works at a small restaurant, and I've been going there regularly for the past 3 months. We've struck up conversations, and she seems like a kind and genuine person. Occasionally, when she says something affectionate, like, "Do you want a refill, honey?" I'm tempted to reveal my true identity, but something holds me back. It's as if she knows me already. America is seeing some truly anti-democracy **TRN armed folks guarding polling stations. Running campaign buses out of town with loads of trucks and rifles. Candidates saying they'll announce victory before votes are actually counted. Parties trying to have early votes drop. A concerning trend is unfolding in America, one that fundamentally undermines the democratic principles our nation holds dear. Images of armed individuals standing guard at polling stations, campaign vehicles being escorted out of town by convoys of trucks and armed men, and candidates declaring victory before votes are even counted are causing widespread alarm. Furthermore, efforts to exclude early votes from the tally, as seen in Texas, are exacerbating the situation. Regardless of one's political leanings, it's essential to acknowledge that this behavior is not representative of the America we know. Growing up in a conservative household, I was often exposed to discussions about the importance of preserving democratic values, and this is precisely the kind of rhetoric that was feared. Our democracy is facing a crisis. We've moved from debating the best approaches to governance and economic growth to a point where there's a question about whether it's acceptable for armed supporters to intimidate or even seize control of state officials. This is not a healthy or normal development. Edit. Update. This post has received an overwhelming response, and I'm finding it challenging to keep up with all the comments. To avoid overwhelming myself, I will refrain from replying to individual messages. However, I urge everyone to remain vigilant and pay attention to the situation unfolding in our country. AITA for calling my friend an idiot for wanting a maternity test? My friend Dan recently found out he might be a father. I say might because the girl he's been having an off-on relationship with, Kara, is pregnant, and he's not sure if he's the dad. She offered to get a paternity. Am I the asshole for calling my friend an idiot over a maternity test? My friend Dan has recently discovered he may become a father. A woman named Kara, whom he has been in a complicated relationship with, is pregnant, but he's unsure if he's the biological father. Kara has proposed taking a paternity test once the baby is born and isn't expecting any financial assistance until they determine the baby's parentage.